Macro photography offers a unique way to explore the smaller details of the world around us. It allows us to see things that often go unnoticed, but getting started with macro photography can be challenging and confusing for beginners with zero experience, and that is why I'm going to give some tips and some things to consider that will help guide a beginner by first helping you get a better understanding of the genre and its challenges, the gear you will need, and some techniques that will help you capture sharp and in focus images. Macro photography, by definition, is close-up photography of small subjects such as bugs and flowers. To take close-up shots, you will need a camera setup that allows you to shoot at high magnifications. Magnification is the ratio between an object's size when projected on a camera sensor versus its size in the real world. In macro photography, a 1-to-1 magnification is considered life size, which means the size of the subject in the sensor is the same as its actual size. This is important for this genre because shooting at 1-to-1 magnification will allow you to capture those fine details on those tiny subjects. You don't need the best or the most expensive gear to take great macro photos. I'm a big believer in the fact that your setup is only a very small part of the equation when it comes to taking great photos. But if you want to learn more about all the macro gear you will need, check this video out. I go more in depth about all the gear you will need for this genre. Shooting at high magnifications does have its challenges, and the first one is that you will have a shorter working distance. Working distance is the distance between the front of your lens and your subject. The higher the magnification you are shooting at, the shorter your working distance will be. And this can make things hard if you are trying to photograph live bugs, since the closer you get to them, the bigger chance you have of scaring them away. If you want to learn more about how to approach a scene and how to photograph skittish subjects or a bug you are not familiar with, then click on this video right here. I go more in depth on my thought process and things I consider when I am out in the field taking macro photos. The second challenge you will face in macro photography is the depth of field. The depth of field is the area in a shot that is sharp and in focus. In macro photography, your depth of field will already be very shallow, and the higher the magnification you are shooting at, the shallower your depth of field will be. If you want as much in focus as possible in a single shot, then the best way to achieve this is to align your macro subject with your depth of field. And basically this just means capturing full body side profile shots of your subjects. This style of shooting, depending on the magnification you are shooting at, can have the whole subject sharp and in focus. Once you get more experienced, I recommend practicing with focus stacking. Focus stacking is definitely a more advanced technique, and it will take a while for most people to finally get good at, but this technique is the combination of 2 or more images that are focused on different areas of the subject, which are then combined using editing software such as Photoshop to create one final image with a deeper depth of field. I have 6 videos in my focus stacking playlist where I go way more in depth on this topic if you want to learn more. But like I said, this is a more advanced technique, so I don't recommend trying this right away if you are brand new to macro photography. Just take the time and learn the basics first, and then try this technique once you get more experience. It's important to have a good understanding of your camera settings and how they work, so you can make those quick adjustments with not much thought needed. But before I get into camera settings, I'm going to briefly talk about the best camera modes for macro photography. If you are brand new to photography, I recommend starting off with aperture priority mode. In aperture priority mode, you will have full control over the aperture while the camera chooses an appropriate shutter speed based on the available light. This mode is best used if you are shooting in natural light without a flash. The next mode and the most preferred is manual mode. In manual, you have full control over all the settings, and in my opinion, this is the best camera mode for macro photography. Now on to the settings. The first setting I will cover is your aperture, also known as f-stop. This controls the depth of field in a shot. The lower the f-stop number, the less they will be in focus. The higher the number, the greater the depth of field will be. My recommended aperture ranges are between f6.3 and f14, and this is because the sharpest aperture range on most lenses is in this range. If you are using a speedlight flash for your macro photography, there are two modes that are useful, and they are TTL and manual modes. TTL is basically auto mode, and it can be useful for beginners because it can help you get a better understanding of how it works. But once you get the hang of it, I recommend using manual mode because you have full control of the lighting output from your flash. For flash power, I recommend keeping that between 1/64 and 1/8 powers. The next setting, your shutter speed, is simply the speed at which the shutter of the camera closes. If you are not using a flash, you will need to shoot at a shutter speed no slower than 1/200th of a second at minimum, because it doesn't take much at all for motion blur to show up in your photos. The slightest wind or movement you make with your camera can cause blurry images. If you are using a flash, then you won't have to shoot at fast shutter speeds to come away with sharp images, and that is because using a flash helps tremendously with freezing motion. My recommended ranges with a flash are between 1/40th and 1/250th of a second. The last setting, your ISO, is a number that represents how sensitive your camera sensor is to light. The higher the number, the higher your camera sensitivity, and the less light you need to take a picture. But the trade-off is that high ISOs can lead to degraded image quality and cause your photos to be grainy. My recommended ISO ranges with a flash are between 100 and 800. If you are not using a flash, your ISO values will fluctuate with the changing lighting conditions outside. I recommend your ISO values to be between 100 and 1600 if you are a natural light shooter. If you are interested in learning more about camera settings, I have a video that goes a little more in depth about the best settings if you are interested. Trying to get a small bug in focus can be a real challenge for most, and the reason it is difficult is because of the shallow depth of field like I mentioned earlier. If you are shooting at 1:1 magnification, manual focus is the best method because trying to shoot in automatic will cause your camera to hunt for focus, and the majority of the time at these magnifications, cameras just aren't that good at trying to predict where exactly you want it to focus on. The best method is to keep your macro lens fixed at a certain magnification and then slowly move your camera forward and backwards until the subject is in focus in your viewfinder or LCD screen. It will take some practice to get good at this, and you may even need a tripod for more stability. So if you are new, then I recommend practicing this technique with inanimate objects you find in your home before trying it with live bugs out in the field. If you are trying to magnify your subject as much as possible, then autofocus can be useful, but I only recommend using autofocus on larger bugs such as butterflies and dragonflies. Now you might be wondering where to find bugs to photograph, and the short answer is anywhere, but I will break it down and try and make it easier for you to find them. The best places to find bugs is open fields with lots of plants and wildflowers. This is a gold mine for finding bugs to photograph because the flowers will attract pollinators such as bees, wasps, butterflies, and all types of flies. These areas will also attract predators such as several different species of spiders, beetles, and lots of others. If you don't have access to an open field, then your local park, a nature preserve in your area if you have one, or even your backyard is just as good to find macro subjects. Other areas to find bugs are wooded areas with lots of leaf litter and rotting logs. Bugs such as centipedes, springtails, termites, and many others like these high moisture areas. The The last good area I will mention to find bugs are near bodies of water such as ponds, streams, and lakes. This is because bugs need water or moisture to procreate and to survive. You will find lots of dragonflies and damselflies in these areas, along with fishing spiders and many other kinds of bugs. If you ever find yourself struggling to find anything to photograph, my best tip is to really slow down and limit your search area and pay close attention to everything around you, because it can be very easy to overlook an area where a bug may be since they are so small. But the more you go outdoors and do research on where to find certain species, the easier it will be to find them. Overall, I hope this video was helpful for you and helped give you a much better understanding of macro photography. If you are new to this genre, just remember to always have fun and just enjoy nature along the way. There will be ups and downs throughout your macro photography journey, with lots of trials and errors before you finally figure out what works best for you. And I know this is much easier said than done, but try your best not to get too caught up with comparing your photos to others, and just learn to enjoy your journey, because better photos will come as long as you continue practicing and putting in the effort to get better.